So it's said that the main remedy, or the ultimate remedy to all the disturbing emotions, is understanding emptiness. Because all of our disturbing emotions, anger, greed, jealousy, and so on, are based on ignorance, not seeing the true nature of things, not seeing the true nature of our own self, our I, not seeing the true nature of others, not seeing the true nature of all the things in the world. So because we are like blind to the true nature of things, and instead we see things in like distorted ways, other than how they really are, then all these disturbing emotions happen. We get angry and hateful towards those we don't like, or who seem threatening to us. We have attachment, desire, grasping towards those people and things that we like, that seem a source of happiness for myself. And then all the other disturbing emotions, jealousy, pride, and so on, they all come from this basic state of ignorance, meaning not seeing the true nature of things. It's a little bit like being mentally ill. You know, it's like having a mentality, a state of mind that's distorted, that's not working properly. Yeah? So in a way, we're all like mentally ill in different degrees.
We are.
We are. Yeah. Yeah, we're not seeing things realistically, our mind isn't functioning properly, and that's why, but in a way, you know, I find it helpful to think that way, because it's not our fault. Yeah, then there's no reason to blame ourselves and to feel bad about ourselves. You know, we can't help it. We're just in this state of ignorance, darkness, confusion, not seeing the true nature of things, and that's why we act in all these crazy ways and do all these harmful things. We don't know any better. Or we could say also the disturbing emotions are so strong. The habit, the energy, the force of them is so strong. Even when we do know better, even when we know, oh, I shouldn't get angry, I shouldn't do this, but it's too strong for us, too much for us. We can't help it. So thinking that way can help us to have more kindness and compassion for ourselves and also for others, rather than blaming and, you know, hating. Does that make sense? Yeah.
You know, ignorance, as you said, is not looking at reality as it is. Okay. So in that example that you gave at the beginning about you driving, you know, starting in a traffic jam and, you know, having to overcome all those drivers that, you know, are driving, you know, left and right. So what would be the way to look at reality in that moment?
Well, there's different levels of reality. I mean, to understand the deepest level of reality, that's very, very difficult. To understand emptiness, that's very, very difficult. And I can't say I realize that. I have an intellectual understanding of it. It means, you know, things seem to exist in a very solid and objective way out there, totally independent of my mind and independent of everything else as well. Things seem to exist that way, and that's actually false. They don't exist that way. They do exist, but they exist interdependently, depending on many different factors and causes and conditions and so on. So you actually have to study a lot and meditate a lot to get to the actual experience of emptiness, the realization of emptiness. And when you do, they say you see things very, very differently. You're not so, things don't appear so heavy and so tight and so solid. as they normally do. And so then you don't get so upset. You don't get so angry about this or frightened of that or attached to that. Your mind is much more calm and balanced. They say it's like seeing like things appear dreamlike, you know, like dreams or like illusions or like fantasies, not so real as they do in our normal experience. So I don't have that experience. But another level of reality is impermanence. Just the fact that things are not permanent, they're changing all the time, everything is changing, my body's changing, other people are changing, the world is changing. So that's another level of reality that we normally don't think about or don't see. But that, understanding that can also help as well, like I mentioned with the noise, you know. Somebody's making noise and it's disturbing me. So if I just remind myself, it's not going to be there forever, it's not going to last forever, then I can sort of calm down and put up with it until it stops. So, yeah, but in the middle of a traffic jam or in the middle of, you know, driving on the freeway, it might be a little dangerous to start thinking about emptiness. That's probably not the best time to be meditating on emptiness, otherwise you might, whoa. You really have to stay mindful of the car you're driving and the cars around you and so on, just try to drive well.
Not a conducive place for Vipassana.
But mindfulness, and also, like I was saying before, this attitude of non-harmfulness, this attitude. Like when I drive here now, I really try to think my number one priority is life. You know, even no, really. Well, it's not, you know, being on time, getting there fast. I mean, you drive like that, you're endangering your life and the lives of others. So, driving to really be aware of other people and beings, and drive in a way that I'm not putting anyone in danger. Driving carefully, driving safely, driving defensively. If somebody wants to go in front of me, yes, please go in front of me. You know, I'm not going to try to race you and see who goes first. That kind of driving. So that, I mean, in a way, that's in accordance with reality, because nobody wants to die, nobody wants to suffer, nobody wants to be injured, nobody wants their car to be damaged. Okay, so if we really think that way, we would all drive carefully. But some people just don't think that way. They're in a hurry to get someplace and they just, some of the drivers I see on the road, I think, what are they doing? They're really, I mean, they're really putting themselves and everyone around them in danger. I don't know why, what's going on in their mind, but I don't think they're in touch with reality. This is just talking about relative reality,
it's
conventional
also
reality.
It's also
Sorry?
cultural. It's also cultural thing, local cultural. Because like when you go to the US, you have this thing of four stops, like like 4 streets will get into like a junction with like in a small
Four-way
road or
stop,
something.
yeah.
So the first one that gets into the junction, he's the first one to cross, and people really respect it. And
Not in East Los
in
Angeles.
Israel, if you do it in Israel, for example, there is no way. I mean, there is no way. I got there first. So it's matter of on the road. You really see on the road. You really see a lot of the cultural illnesses of us.
Anyway, we don't need to get into all that, but yeah, we're kind of running short of time, so I didn't want to spend too much time on that. I wanted to talk about this 4th verse and then do a little bit of meditation. So anyway, I was just trying to make the point that, you know, our real problem is not seeing reality. So the solution to our disturbing emotions is to try to develop more and more correct awareness of reality, the true nature of things. But like I say, there are different levels of that. So again, it's a lifetime job. Understanding reality is something we can be working on our whole life. And actually, this is the subject of the next module, isn't it? Now we're doing module 11.
11.
Module 12 is about emptiness, wisdom of emptiness. So there we will be looking at the true nature of things. So verse 4 says, this is a hard one. Whenever I see beings who are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by violent negative actions and suffering, I shall hold such rare ones dear, as if I had found a precious treasure. So this is talking about difficult beings. There's plenty of those in the world. Our usual reaction to such people is probably, we wish they weren't in the world. We wish they were somewhere else. Put them in a ship and send them off to Mars or something. So, you know, we don't see it as like, see them as dear and precious. And so we may feel angry, critical, we might want to avoid them, we might even go further and want to harm them or wish that harm would come to them. So we may have those kinds of thoughts. And this is natural. It's understandable that we think that way and feel that way. They're creating problems for the world, maybe for ourselves, for others, and so on. But this verse talks about seeing them as dear and like a precious treasure. So this is pretty unusual. So again, remember, this is the Bodhisattva path. And a Bodhisattva, in order to, Bodhisattva wants to become enlightened, to be able to help all living beings. And one of the things you have to do to become enlightened is develop patience. You also have to develop love and compassion, and I mentioned before, it's not just for your friends and family, but everybody, including the difficult ones. Okay, so if you leave out anybody from your love and compassion, if you say, I feel love and compassion for everybody in the world except that one, you won't get enlightened. Right? So if you leave out any person, even one person, one being,
Any sentient being.
Any sentient being, yeah. Well, animals are persons too, according to Buddhism. And if you leave out any being from your love and compassion, that you won't be able to reach enlightenment. So you have to develop love and compassion for everybody, even these difficult ones. And also, patience. So I think the reason why it says these difficult beings are rare and precious is because they give us the chance to practice patience. So patience is a really beautiful state of mind. It's knowing how to put up with difficult people without getting angry, without losing our temper, without becoming furious and so on. So it's being able to stay cool and calm. But that doesn't mean that you let people do all kinds of bad things. Yeah? So if somebody's doing bad things, if they're harming children or harming animals or harming women or whatever, it isn't that you just sit by and say, okay, I'm practicing patience and just let this person get away with what they're doing. That's not the meaning of patience. If someone's doing harmful things and you have the ability to stop them or try to stop them, you should. But it's about your mental attitude, the attitude you have towards them. Having patience means you don't hate them, you don't feel angry at them, you don't wish to harm them. So you see that they deserve compassion as much as the victims that they are harming. So you have compassion for the perpetrators of harm as well as the victims of harm. So that's the meaning of patience. It's not non-anger, non-hatefulness, non-harmfulness towards difficult people, difficult beings. So we all do have patience. It's a natural quality we all have, but we can work on it, improve it, have more of it. So it's like, we have patience up to a certain point. Up to this point, I can remain patient, but then beyond that point, there's a line, a barrier, and I lose my patience. But we can extend the barrier. We can extend the line so that we can be patient longer and longer with more and more difficult people and difficult situations. So we can work on it, we can increase our patience. And they say that to do that, we need challenges. we need to be able to see the limits of our patience so that we know, okay, I have to work further, I have to do more on my patience. And it's these difficult people that give us a chance to see where our limits are. If you're with nice people, if you're with people who are always nice and easygoing and easy to get along with, then it's easy to be patient with them. And you may think, oh, I'm such a patient person, I don't have any anger, So you might have the pride of thinking you're more patient than you really are. But then when you meet one of these difficult people, challenging people, anger is coming up in your mind, that's when you have a chance to see, oh, I'm not as patient as I thought I was. I still have anger. I still have more work to do. Does that make sense? Intellectually. But I think that's the idea. That's the idea here. Why these people are regarded as precious, because they give us a chance to see the limits of our patience, to see how much anger we still have, anger and hatred, which is one of the biggest delusions, one of the biggest causes of suffering, one of the biggest obstacles to enlightenment. So anger is a natural state of mind, we all have it, but you need to look at, is it a healthy thing, is it helpful, is it skillful, does it bring benefit, happiness, peace, or does it bring suffering? So if you look at that, you might conclude that it brings suffering to ourselves. It also brings suffering to others, to the world. I mean, look at all the violence in the world. The war, the terrorism, the fighting, the abuse, the torture, all horrible things that are motivated by anger and hatred. So it's easy to see how that leads to suffering. On the other hand, patience, kindness, compassion, that leads to such beautiful things. Helping people, trying to relieve their suffering, trying to benefit them. So if you can see that patience is a beautiful quality, anger is a harmful quality, and you want to have more patience and less anger, then these are opportunities when we meet with difficult people, or we hear about difficult people in the news. These are the opportunities for us to work on our patience. So I have a quotation here from the Buddha about patience. He says, "One should think, if there were no wrongdoers, how could I bring patience to perfection? One should think, although he is a wrongdoer now, in the past he may have been my benefactor." So this is useful. Sometimes a wrongdoer, somebody who does something wrong, we see them as totally 100% bad, like that they're nothing good about them. They've always been bad. They always will be bad. They never do anything good. Is that really true? So that's something to examine. Probably not. Yeah, I mean, everybody has some good qualities. Everybody does some good things. And sometimes they even do good things for us.
I mean, even within a given span of time, it changes.
Yeah.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah. So I like this quotation I heard from Mother Teresa. She said, there are no bad people. There are only good people who do bad things. That's really true. We're all good people, but we all do bad things sometimes. We all do stupid things because we're ignorant. We don't know any better. And then Buddha says, one should think, a wrongdoer is at the same time a benefactor, because through him patience can be practiced. So the Buddha himself said that this person is helpful for us because it gives us a chance to practice patience. So there's lots of different methods for working on anger. I don't have time to go into them here, but we'll do this at the retreat. But one thing, if all else fails, one thing that might be helpful is to just
Press the panic button.
to think about the Buddha, the mind of a Buddha, and how a Buddha sees that person. How a Buddha, I mean, maybe you have to know something about Buddha, but they say a Buddha has no anger, no hatred, no negative feelings towards anybody, sees everybody with only love and compassion all the time, no matter what they do. Buddha is forgiving, patient, loving, compassionate, because a Buddha can see everybody's potential, can see that we all have...
Everybody's Buddha's nature.
We all have Buddha nature. We all have the potential to become a Buddha. So the Buddha can see that. And he can see that this person is behaving badly right now, but they're not going to be like that forever. It's just because of their ignorance. They don't know any better. So the Buddha can see more than just this bad thing, which is happening right now. He can see a much bigger picture. So I find that helpful. With really difficult people, to think, how does this person appear to the Buddha, or to the Dalai Lama, or to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or whoever you have respect for. These wonderful, kind, compassionate beings who are our teachers. So how would they see that person? Would they see them with aversion and dislike and irritation and criticalness? Or would they be able to feel love and compassion? So just thinking about that can help you to just see a different possibility. Even if you yourself are not able to feel love and compassion for that person. But just to think, somebody loves that person. Somebody has compassion for that person.
Or thinking about how much suffering that bad person goes through.
Yeah.
That made him the way he's acting. You can also feel compassion towards him.
Yeah.
It's real suffering. It's terrible.
Actually, once Tenzin Palmo said something really helpful. She said, it makes complete sense to have loving kindness for bad people, because the reason they're bad, the reason they're doing these bad things is because they're suffering, they're miserable. They're full of misery, full of suffering, unhappy, they're not happy. So if we have loving kindness, that means wishing them to be happy. If we wish them to be happy, and if they could be happy, they'd be a lot nicer. They wouldn't be doing these awful things. They'd be much nicer people. So it makes much more sense to wish them happiness than to be angry and hateful and wish them to suffer. Does that make sense? It's logical.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's perfect sense.
Yeah. So.
Counterintuitive, but
Yeah. I guess for a lot of these things, you do need to have some more understanding of the Buddha's teachings, like about karma. Well, this person is, creating such bad karma, and they're going to suffer in the future, but they're also suffering right now because their mind is just in turmoil. It's just so troubled and, miserable. So they're suffering now, they will suffer in the future, but at the same time, they're not going to be like this forever. Just going through a phase. They're going through a bad phase right now. But one day, that person will come out of this and start to develop good qualities, and eventually will be a Buddha. It's like Shakyamuni Buddha.
When your child becomes an awful person or whatever, you don't give up on him as their parent, right?
If you're the mother or
You try
father,
to see,
yeah.
it's exactly
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Seeing it from their point of view. Their state.
So it probably will take time to think about these different points and again and get to the point where this makes sense to us. But it's worth putting the time into it. It's worth spending the time, because it definitely helps us. Because if you can see how painful it is to feel anger, to feel hatred, to feel aversion, it's really painful, isn't it? I mean, maybe some people like feeling that way, but I don't.
It's poison.
It's poisonous. On the morning after the election last year, I was really depressed. I was so unhappy. Oh. And I'm sure many people were.
All of us.
Many people were. But then I got myself out of it. One thing I said was, why do I feel this way? And I realized my mind was projecting. I'm thinking all these horrible things are going to happen. He's going to do this and he's going to do that and blah, 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 blah. And I thought, wait a minute, I don't know. I can't see the future. Maybe not. And anyway, what's the point of worrying about it? What's the point of sitting here now and worrying about all these things that might happen in the future? That's useless. So I stopped myself from doing that. And then I also decided that I wasn't going to let my mind get angry the way I did at George Bush. So when George Bush was president, I would get so angry at him.
The son.
Yeah, the one who started the Iraq War.
Yeah.
And that was really awful, really painful. So I made the decision, I'm not going to let that happen with Trump. I'm not going to let myself get angry at him. Yeah, and it's worked so far. You know, I'm partly just trying to avoid thinking and looking and listening to the rest.
All of us told me.
But, you know, yeah, because it's just so painful, you know, having anger and hatred and, it's really
Anger breeds more anger.
bad. Yeah,
Doesn't matter which direction it goes.
doesn't help.
Doesn't matter.
No.
You are angry at Bibi, we have our own Trump. That breeds more anger.
We just
Yeah.
have him for 9 years already. You have him for 1 year. We have 9 years.
And that's another thing I thought, maximum 8 years, no more than that.
We don't have this.
Yeah.
We don't have this privilege.
Yeah.
We're stuck forever.
But the thing is, if we are angry, if we develop anger, that will bring more anger,
Yeah.
for sure.
But can we say that maybe the source, the origin of all what we are talking about is actually this distorted conception of reality, that in the base of it is this dualism or multiism, that there is a separation between me and the others, Trump and us or me, that actually what we see in front of us is a reflection of ourselves. And I find this way of looking at things, like whatever I think is in front of me is actually a mirroring of myself or of our group or our nature. And this helps a lot because we also have in Hebrew this verse, which is from the ancients, says, Kol ha-posel b'rumo posel. Whatever you criticize with what is in front of you, you are actually you should look at yourself because this defect which is
You're
in front
spotting
of
your
you
own
is
faults
actually
in the
yourself.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we would not be able to identify whatever is there as bad and also good if we don't have something of it inside us.
It takes one to know.
Definitely.
Yes. Yes, this is true. This is true. And I've heard this
Otherwise
is,
you don't know what it is.
yeah, some of my friends, I mean, I'm not living in America now, so it's a little easier, but my friends in America were confronting it every day. This is what they're saying. They're saying, yeah, it's giving us an opportunity to look at ourselves and, you know, this whole idea of a mirror. He's mirroring things in ourselves. So we need to look at ourselves instead of pointing the finger out there and being angry and critical.
Also, how do you look at Trump and think, okay, that's an opportunity? How do you look at somebody like Trump and President Trump and thinking, oh, this is somebody that, like I said before, that the hard people are there to help us to develop. And so that's when it's hard, you know. As you said, you know, when it's easy and we can do it, but then you deal with something, you can't go away. I mean, you cannot listen to the news, but it still exists, whatever he's doing.
Mm.
And that's where we crash. That's when we
You don't understand
prefer
anything.
to move a country, right?
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting what's going on in the world now. These changes in...
You can't run away.
Yes.
Hmm?
You can.
violence.
לא, אבל היא הרי מה היא אומרת? היא אומרת שזה ההזדמנות שלנו להתאמן, אז איך אתה מתאמן איתך?
No, giving up something. Yes, giving up, maybe giving up,
You come to this course. That's what you do.
Transforming problems. Yeah, giving us a chance to
Yeah, that's what
practice.